What's up, Mary? How we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We are rocking and rolling. So how's everything? Y'all doing okay?
We're doing okay. We're having a few issues. That's why I'm calling you.
All right. So what's up? How can I help?
Well, I am part of a blended family, and my son recently moved back home, and we're having some issues.
How old is he?
He is 19, about to be 20.
Okay. And what did he move home from?
Well, he was just gone for a few months. He got a job. He finally got a pretty decent job, and he went to go move in with his girlfriend. And then he called me one day and asked if he could come back home, said that that wasn't really working out, and one of his coworkers had just rented a house, and he wanted to move in with him. It was closer to work, and it sounded good, so I was like, okay, but I talked it over with my husband, and we agreed that it would be for 6 weeks, and he would have to, there'd be no drugs or alcohol allowed, no girls allowed, no, he had to clean up after himself and then pay $100 a week in rent.
You basically gave him the rules that I have for my 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Is that a state of his, is that a signal of his emotional state as a 20-year-old?
Pretty much, because up until he moved out just a couple months ago, he literally was doing nothing.
Okay.
So
what's going on?
So at first he was doing really good for like the first 4 weeks. He was paying his rent.
Cleaning up after himself?
Cleaning up after himself. He was going to work. He seemed, to have a good self-esteem. And then all of a sudden, he started not going to work as often as he was, and stopped cleaning up after himself, stopped paying rent. And then he called me out to talk to him one day, and I walked out to his car with him, and he started crying and said that I didn't know him, nobody knew the real him, that he wasn't a good person, and that nobody understood him. And I didn't know what was going on, so I told him, I was like, regardless of what's happening, or what you've done, I still love you. Nothing's going to make me not love you. I said, just talk to me. And he said that he's not emotionally connected with anyone since his brother died, and he died 4 years ago in an accident. He was 18.
Okay.
And we've been getting through that pretty well, I thought. And then, I was just kind of waiting for the bomb to drop. And he said that the only one that he's emotionally connected to since then was my husband's youngest daughter, who is 17, and she doesn't live with us. But he proceeded to tell me that they've been in a romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. And, I was stunned and told him, all the things that could go wrong with that it was inappropriate, and I didn't really know what to say, but it didn't end very well. I tried to tell my husband, which obviously he didn't take it very well, and now over the past week, they're not talking to each other now. She's mad at him because he told us, and he's just kind of regressed back to himself. He's not talking to anybody. He's openly smoking weed in the driveway. Like, he's just shut down. And I don't know what to do. I want to help him, but at the same time, I don't want it to destroy, the entire family. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to do to help him and not destroy us.
So you cannot, he's a 20-year-old man, okay?
Yes.
He's got some trauma, right? He's got some hard stuff. He's a 20-year-old man, though, right? Yes. And he suffered a horrific loss of his brother. That was hard for the family. And he still should not have to have a lease that he's got to clean up after himself as a 20-year-old, right?
Yes, yes.
And so any damage that happens to the family because you decide to draw boundaries are not going to be, quote unquote, your fault. Okay?
Okay.
And you're going to have to unhook yourself from the other people's choices when they run up against your boundaries, the things that you're going to do to keep your family safe. Okay.
Okay.
Also, you're going to hold up your end of the bargain. You told him, no matter what you tell me, I'm going to love you. And you're going to keep doing that, right?
Right.
And that means you're going to love him, and you're going to be there for him, and you're not going to enable him. Right? And he's going to have to face the music that if he was in a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old as a 20-year-old, depending on what state he's in, he just committed a felony. And that felony was committed against a child, and that child happens to be the daughter of your husband.
Yes.
Right? And so there's going to be some face in the music on this deal. Again, you will not be the person who destroyed your family. Right?
Right.
The more you hang on to that, the more you are going to enable him to continue to hurt a child, to continue to not get the help that he desperately, desperately needs, because you're trying to own and control the outcomes of this deal, and you can't. He's got to take responsibility as a hurting 20-year-old man.
Right.
That he can't sleep with 17-year-olds. He can't smoke weed in his mom's house. He can't fill in the blank, right?
Right.
So what he's got to have right now is your love and your compassion and your accountability all wrapped up into one package. Real quick, because he's really close to doing something he can't come back from.
Right.
Whether that's hurting himself, whether that is he's going to get himself in trouble. He's going to cross the line he can't come back from.
Well, his day to move out of our house was supposed to be next week, and I still want to hold to that.
Okay.
I'm nervous about it, but at the same time, I feel like if I extend it any further, like you said, I'm enabling him.
Yeah.
But
I also want you to be willing to extend an olive branch and take him out and say, what is your plan? I will help you make a plan.
Yeah.
It's not going to be here, but I'm not abandoning you. I want to help you. Why aren't you, and I don't know if you and your husband can talk about, like, we might help you with counseling resources. We might help you with recovery resources and things like that. But it's not going to be living here because you got a job and he's clearly got skills and he's also clearly got hurt, right? So it's all wrapped up there together. He's going to have to face the music with your husband though.
Yes. Well, we had initially, we had planned on taking $100 a week rent, saving that for him, and then adding $400 for his birthday to give him his $1,000 emergency starting fund. Of course, with him coming home, with bags of weed, I don't feel like that's going to help him at this point.
Well, and here's the magic. The magic of an emergency fund is part the money, but that's not really it. The emergency fund is a psychological thing that I went bananas. I sold stuff. I just ran as fast as I could, and I was able to do this. And so just handing somebody $1,000 is not the same as them grinding and grinding. It's a psychological thing, right? It would have been a great gift. It would have been cool, but it would not have been effective as him going out and grinding it out.
Right.
And earning $1,000 and showing and proving to himself baby steps, I could do this, right?
Yeah, right.
But all that to say is this. You and your husband have to get on the same page today. Okay. And if not today, you let him know, like, hey, we've got to have this conversation tomorrow, right?
Okay.
And you need your husband to be as level-headed as a dad of a daughter who's been raped and or sexually assaulted by an adult male can be, right? Which is not always very much so. And y'all are going to have to figure out what's next steps. Okay. And then at some point, he's going to have to address your husband, his stepdad. At some point, you're going to have to reconcile that relationship there. And then he's going to have to move out of your house.
Yes.
And he's going to have to move out of your house with the best you can, letting him know that you love him. I would recommend, I'd say this all the time, and I would tell you the same thing too. I would write him a letter that he can hold in his hand and go back to and go back to and go back to. And I'd probably, if I was his mom, make that a practice. Maybe once a week. It will help you clarify your thoughts and get all that spinning, spirally stuff out onto a piece of paper. And also it's going to give him something to hold. Because someone who's an addict, someone who's suffering with trauma, they are so good with walls, right? And defense mechanisms, they throw them up so fast. And as soon as you say, you've got to move out, but I love you, they're already out. They don't listen to a word you're saying. They are into defense mode, and you hate me, and you're going to ruin my life, and why don't you fill in the blank, right? If they're holding that letter, they can circle back to it and circle back to it and circle back to it. And they can read it again and read it again and read it again.
Okay.
And even if he takes that letter and you find it in the trash on his way out, it's still a benefit to you for having gotten your heart and thoughts out on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay. But the greatest thing you can give him right now is a plan, like a detailed plan. Here's where you can go. Here's how we're going to support you or not support you. Here's what we expect of you if you want to move back, all that kind of stuff. And 2 is your accountability, your boundaries.
Okay.
And I don't want to sugarcoat this. It may get real bad, Mary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you ready for that?
I think I have gotten there. I've been dealing with his boundaries for a year and a half, 2 years now, and I've listened a lot, but it's finally to that point where I think I'm going to be able to do what I need to do.
Okay. And let him know he's always got your heart, and you'll always be there to meet him for coffee and to talk him through what's next. But that doesn't always mean he's got access to smoke weed in your house. That doesn't always mean he's got access to your money and to the children in your home, et cetera, right?
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I appreciate you making the call. And I think the broader lesson for all of us is a lot of these relationships, especially when they're young adults, man, drawing boundaries sometimes for the first time, especially when you're dealing with trauma, it's not just a magic solution. It gets real, real hard. Oh, and Mary, if you get a hint that he's going to hurt himself, you call in the cavalry. You call every emergency number that you know. If you get a hint that he's in some sort of inappropriate relationship with a minor, you call in everybody. You call the police. You call everybody into that situation, right? That's your job. Because it sounds like there was a romantic relationship with a minor, you have to report that too, even though it's your child. You're going to have to report that. I don't. As some laws, 17 is of legal consent age, and so depending on the state you're in, y'all can figure that out with your local authorities. But he's going to have a reckoning with that situation, and that can get real messy too. That can get real messy with your marriage, and you and your husband have to be super intentional about being united in this deal. Man, there's not always happy endings here. I really, really will be thinking about you guys as y'all move forward. And you and your husband may want to get a counselor to help y'all unpack this and work through this. It's going to be hard.